Hello, everyone, and welcome to this recorded webinar for technical body officers about the new CEN new work item proposal form that will enter into force as of the 10th of January 2022. My name is Alessia Gaetani, and I work as a project manager in the manufacturing unit of the Standardization and Digital Solution Department at the CEN Management Center. And today with me, there is Raisa Soares, who works in the digital solutions team and that will guide you through some practical aspects related to Projects Online working area. During this presentation, we will first frame the topic looking at the concept of the new work item proposal form, then understand why a new form is needed, and finally, we'll directly look at the form in tracked changes so that the novelties are easily identifiable. This slide simply recaps the key points related to the new work item proposal form, of which you are already aware, since they remain unchanged from the previous version of the form. First of all, a new work item proposal form is a document to be submitted to the concerned CEN-TC when adopting a new work item or activating a preliminary work item, and it is usually filled by the working group secretary or by the TC secretary. An important point of attention is that the form shall always be attached to the CIB so that the NSBs voting can immediately know what the vote is about when opening the CIB. And this practice is also makes it easier for National Bureau Committee secretaries to share the information with their TCs. The form is an informative document for the TCs, since in CEN, the actual registration of the work item following the TC decision takes place through Project Online working area. But in any case, the fields included in the form and in the working area are identical. Coming to the core of the presentation of today, I'm sure that you are all wondering why BT has decided to introduce a new work item form. Well, there is a number of reasons for that. Firstly, there is a need of integrating the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so to map the work items accordingly, and we will come back to this point. And secondly, also some digital aspects have to find a dedicated place in the frame of the digital transformation. And also for the slides, there is a dedicated slide. And we needed to implement a series of improvements, such as to give more visibility and guidance to the environmental aspects, improve the section on the target dates according to the flexible standard development process, and bring more clarity on some miscellaneous aspects that perhaps in the past caused some confusion. And lastly, since CEN and CENELEC will from now on have separate new work item proposal form, we needed to remove the CENELEC related information. And at the same time, we took the occasion also to remove some outdated information, such as procedures that do not exist anymore. And as already mentioned, you will have to use this new form as of January 2022, but you already find it on CEN-BOSS in case you want to have a look. So now that we have set the scene, we can directly look at the form, and we will do so by alternating through the form in tracked changes and the PowerPoint whenever additional information is needed. So moving to the form, the first element I would like you to pay attention to is this note with the asterisk, reminding you that the form has to be attached to the CIB. In section 0, we simply replace the word project with work item to give more consistency. In section 1, the harmonization document has been removed since it applies to CENELEC only. And in section 2, the conversion of ENB to EN has also been removed since it is no longer in place. Section 2A is about the scope of the work item, and for this I will leave the floor to Raisa.
Yes, Alessia, thank you. Good morning. Yes, there was a need to make it clear what is the criteria for the voting when there is a change in a scope for a revision or an amendment, which requires a weighted vote, and when the scope will not change in an amendment or in a revision, which will be a simple majority for the voting. And if we are able to see the slides, there have been changes implemented in working area for that to make it evident what is the correct selection that needs to be made. And this section here, once selected by the TC secretary, it will affect the section in the end where you're able to input the outcome of the CIB. So it is important to select the correct criteria. And it also improves visibility on how the changes will be made in the amendment or in the new version of the standard when it is a revision.
Okay, thank you, Raisa. And we go back to the form. We see section 3. Basically, here you are required to explain the purpose of the proposal and also to specify if the work item is based on a document from other organization than ISO-IC, but we will get back to this later. Section 4 and 5 remain unchanged. You see them in blues just because they have been moved upper in the document. And section 6 is about digital aspects. And here you are requested to indicate if the deliverable is intended to be developed using the online collaborative authoring platform and or if it is intended to include non-Word PDF content. And about digital aspects, I'm sure that by now you have heard about this topic many times, but it is important to mention that having this section in the form reflects the importance of the ongoing digital transformation of CEN, which is an integral part of the strategy 2030, and it is expressed through goal 2 of the strategy. For more information on this topic, of course, you can check our website or you can get in contact with us, especially if you are interested in the pilot of the online collaborative authoring platform that is currently going on. And this is for Raisa.
Yes, Alessia, thank you. As you can see, we have made changes in working area for this to reflect the change in the form. And as you can see, you have 2 questions to fill in now. Well, it can also be that none of the above are applicable, but as Alessia was explaining, one of the questions reflects the intent of the TC to use the online collaborative authoring platform to draft the body of the standard, to draft the text of the standard, and this can be selected. And the second question reflects the attachment being a non-Word or a non-PDF content to the standard. And for your information, both of the sections can be selected at the same time. It's not an either or. In case the second one is selected and there is a content that is non-Word or non-PDF, then further explanation needs to be provided, and that is mandatory. So what will happen in case any of these fields are selected by the TC? We will receive the form when the decision is submitted to create the new work item, and we will contact you, the TC secretary, upon the reception, because we need to put you in touch with a colleague which is in charge of this project, which is Shannon Kieran, and she will discuss the details on how to provide the content that is non-PDF and non-Word, and to see how to set you up on the online collaborative authoring platform.
Thank you, Raisa. Very clear. And moving to section 11, you can see that this is about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that from now on I will call SDGs because it's shorter. And we have introduced this new section because in early 2021, CEN and CENELEC embarked on a project to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals with a more systematic approach to standards, and with two main objectives. The first, to identify how Sensenelec contribute to the implementation of the United Nations 2030 Agenda and the associated SDGs. And the second one being to define a methodology enabling the standardization community to demonstrate whether a specific EN is supporting one or several SDGs. And as of November 2021, selected CEN and CENELEC TCs were invited to perform a mapping exercise, which results will be displayed on the CEN CENELEC websites and on the web pages of the TCs in spring 2022. Meanwhile, you are requested through the new form to note whether your TC's work item fulfills one or more SDGs, so that each new work item will be mapped from now on. And in order to support you with this exercise, you will soon receive an email on the subject with a dedicated toolkit that has been developed by a steering group composed of Sensenelec members and representative from ECOS and ETUC. And this is for Raisa.
Yes, Alessia, thank you. Very clear. As you can see, we have modified working area to reflect the section included in the new work item form. And you can select the goals, and providing a rationale for the select SDGs is optional. And I have here example of how it will look like after the form is generated in a PDF or a Word format. And it will be listed like that as bullet points for the selected goals.
Okay. Moving on into the form, we go to section 12, which is about accessibility aspects. Here, actually nothing changes except for this link here about the so-called protocol that has been added to give you more guidance. Section 13, environmental aspects. Actually, here also we just added the section or the option chemicals. And in section 14, that is still about environmental aspects, you find two more links that were added to give you some more support on the topic. Section 15 is about the Vienna Agreement, and you can see that there will no longer be reference to Senelec and to the Frankfurt Agreement. So you only find the two options, Vienna Agreement with CEN-lead or ISO-lead. Section 16 is about the documents on which the work item is based. And for this, I give the floor back to Raisa.
Thank you, Alessia. Yes, we made a modification in working area to remove this section from the form that it's filled in, because we incurred in a lot of issues, and it's kind of misleading a document from another organization when in fact we only accept ISO documents in working area, or ISO IC documents. So in case there's a reference to any other document, there's a national document, this information should be provided in working area section 1, question 3. And in the new work item form, as Alessia mentioned before, it is right in the beginning of the form where it is the justification that this information should be provided, and not here anymore. This won't be visible in working area.
Okay, thank you. Moving to section 18, you can see that this is about the track, and these two old tracks have been removed. So you now only have the option inquiry plus formal vote for EN and vote on TS and TR by correspondence. And section 19 is about the target dates according to the flexible development process. And also for this, I ask Raisa to say a few words.
Yes, Alessia, thank you. The flexible standard development process is a new process for standards development where the technical committees are made fully responsible for the timely and effective delivery of standards by enable them to autonomously plan and organize their work within a specified maximum timeframe of 68 weeks. Before, the timeframe was divided in 34 and 34 weeks by default, but now the TCs are able to distribute this 68 weeks according to their tailored needs. And it was not very clear how to do that in the form before, especially for JTCs. So the changes make it more clear how this is supposed to be indicated. And if we go back to the slides, it's clear now that for the JTCs, the dates should always be provided in number of weeks, the stage code and the number of weeks. And why is this clear here? Because for CEN TCs, there's a calculator already embedded in working area that helps drafting the decision and helps also submitting the decision that it will adjust accordingly to the time frame that it can be tried by the TC and see if it is compliant or not to the rules and the flexible development of standards. But for JTCs, it was not so evident how this information should be provided, and now it's very clear in the form. And if we see the next slide, there is two examples here on how it is a good practice to provide the dates, because work items by JTCs, they go to BT for approval. So it's always good to indicate that it's BT approval plus number of weeks. And exactly, it is possible to provide the date if it is well calculated, but it's safer to provide a number of weeks. So it's either okay to provide the date, as you see in the first example, and the number of weeks, or only the number of weeks if it is easier. And recently, we developed an online solution, which is the flexible timeframe calculator. It's very helpful, especially for JTCs, which because they don't have access to working area, as I said. For CEN TCs, there is already an embedded calculator in working area that is very helpful. But for JTCs, upon agreeing on a time frame, using the flexible time frame calculator, it's very helpful, and it makes it easier to fill in the form in the correct format and with the number of weeks, which is in the calculator as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Raisa. It was, I think, very, very helpful. And we move to the form for the last two sections that I would like to share with you. The first one is the 21st here, that is about the identification of legislation and policies. So we changed this from related directives just to, let's say, better reflect the reality of things. And the last modification is on section 24. That is about the so-called five members rules. So as you can see here, this section now only applies to CEN-elect JTCs. Because the form will be submitted to BTs for approval of the work item, it doesn't mean that this rule is not relevant anymore for CEN TCs, of course, but this information will be submitted along with the decision through working area once the decision is taken. So with this, actually, we close our webinar of today. And we want to thank you for your attention and also for making sure that all the fields are filled correctly in the form. Still, should you have questions or doubt, please do not hesitate to contact your sectoral PM that will either reply directly or redirect you to the right people in CCMC. Thank you very much. Bye bye.